You're listening to the Believe in Giants podcast with two-time Super Bowl winner Carl Banks and the voice of the Giants, Bob Papa.
Online continues to be your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball in full swing. Football season's right around the corner. BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, scores, even live in-game betting. MLB, UFC, tennis, NFL futures. BetOnline remains your choice for sports wagering information. In between games, go to the BetOnline casino. All the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Head to the website today. Take advantage of their industry-leading VIP program and level up bonuses and weekly cash boosts. BetOnline, the game starts here. We welcome you to another edition of Believe in Giants. Bob Hoppe and Carl Banks. And Carl, 3 practices in the books. I know you were out there for the last couple of them. What's your takeaway so far from what you've seen?
Well, there's a few things, Bob, but the upgrade in talent is noticeable. They're still in shorts, in helmets, but you could just see, apples to apples, how they just have better players out there right now. The defense is going to be exciting. Today, I'm looking at one period, and I can just tell you folks that they're going to be multiple on defense. There was one period where Kayvon Thibodeau was a true defensive end, hand in the dirt, and there were 3 other defensive linemen, and Burns wasn't one of them. Burns was standing up at linebacker. And then they had 2 inside linebackers, and then they had the defensive back. So they are testing a lot of different configurations for this defense. And I think it's going to be exciting to see how this all comes out, because he's exploring possibilities. And these guys are so good and athletic. I watched Burns in space today. There was a big pileup at the end of practice, and a lot of players stayed down, but he was in pass coverage, and he just took off on a sprint and caught the wide receiver, tried to cause a fumble, and everybody piled up. But I mean, this is an exciting time to be looking at the possibilities of what Giants football could be. I'm going to say this, and because we have these Twitter interpreters that'll take something you say and it becomes a whole nother narrative. But there was a long ball thrown to Malik Nabers. And I'm standing with Michael Barrow and Jesse Armstead, and it was, I think, Tim McDonald. And they're running right down the sideline past us. It's a go ball. And about halfway through the route, and if people have run track, they know what this sound is. You hear that's a Debo just starting to feel Malik Nabers pull away. And it was like they were stride for stride, and then all you hear that noise, you hear that sound, and people that run track know what that means. That guy, one guy is laboring to try to keep up, and the other guy was just as smooth as can be. And balls in the air. Now, Debo's not beat but by a half a step, and then he just falls down. And Nabers just as calmly, didn't labor at all throughout the entire route, just pulls it in and runs it in. But it's really a good, just the competition at a high level is what I'm super impressed with.
I saw that play. I mean, we'll see how it all goes as far as Russell Wilson is concerned at quarterback. But there's certain things you don't lose, and his timing, the arc in which he throws it. We saw him do it with Lockett and Metcalf for years in Seattle, and it looked as pretty as ever. It was just perfect.
And the thing is, the catch by Nabers just kind of put a bow on it. He didn't fall. He wasn't, diving for it. The moon ball just drops right in, and there's Nabers there to catch it. It was a beautiful sight. The thing is too, I know it's kind of odd to hear these type of platitudes thrown towards Giant players, but I used the word different a few times. I used it when we did our wide receiver breakdown a few months ago. I talked about how Malik Nabers is just different. He moves different. He runs routes differently, and I saw that when we had our conversation with Joe Shane, and I said that Abdul Carter, he's different. There's something that's different. And I'm looking at him yesterday, and he had, I think, about 3 no-hitters. Guys, he just went right, especially on the interior of the offensive line, when people were like, well, how are they going to play him? He won't hold up against a run. This dude, he makes people miss. And it's not like he's guessing wrong either. He, when he makes you miss, he normally makes you miss and he's right where the ball is. And that is exciting to watch. And people are like, well, add some context to it. I'm like, well, it is what it is. This is what I see right now. And I'm talking to yesterday, was talking to Joe Shane about what I was looking at. And I said, and this is not a comparison, people. I said about Carter, I said, I bet you, because we both looked at the no-hitter on the inside. I said, I bet you if you called him over here right now and asked him what did he do, what move was that, he'll probably tell you, I don't know. I got to look at the film. That is the stuff that and this, again, folks, not a comparison. But Lawrence used to do things like that, and we used to be like, how'd you do that? He's like, what? He literally would say, what? He's like, I don't know. I got to look at the film. I don't know. I just beat him. And that, you can look at Carter on some of the inside stuff, and you could just tell it just in the moment happened, right? And that's the encouraging aspect of it. And then, there's different players that are different, players that move different. And Brian Burns is one of those guys too. But it's just the thing that excites me. And again, folks, there are no predictions here. It's just the talent is better and it's noticeable. On the offensive side, when you have this quarterback and, Russell Wilson, for those of you who don't know, and there's a lot written about him, he is a leader that the Giants don't have. Like, the Giants have quiet leadership. From all accounts, Russell Wilson could run a meeting without the coaches in it. Mm-hmm. And the way he approaches the game, and I use the phrase chronic, he is chronically positive. Like he's everything is about moving forward, positivity. He doesn't dwell on negativity. He's always picking his teammates up. And for whatever the personality things that he had that we read about, I don't think anybody will ever say he's not a positive guy. I mean, he is chronically positive. It is just, it's nothing phony about it. I mean, it's just what he believes, and he gets his teammates, to start feeling that way too. They can accomplish a great deal.
Yeah, I mean, even when I said hello to him on the field yesterday, and then I saw him this morning, I saw him a couple times yesterday in the hallway, whatever. It's like even the hello is positive. Mm-hmm. Like even the way he says hello to you, it's got like a positive feel. Now, listen, pads come on Monday. I'm excited to see that.
Actually, Sunday.
I thought it was Monday.
Christine told me Sunday for whatever reason. Maybe Monday. Okay.
I thought it was Monday, Tuesday. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see, too, because as people have told me in the past, the offensive linemen are at a disadvantage when there's no pads on, in the sense that there's nothing for them to grab. So, it'll be interesting to see when the old linemen get their pads on and the D guys get their pads on, what adjustments Carter makes once he starts getting held by NFL guys.
Sure. Well, the one thing that you see with Carter is that he's already operating at NFL speed.
Ooh,
that's not going to be the adjustment.
Well, you put that thing on X today where it's like, I didn't speed this up.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Renan had posted it, and I was like, if I wasn't there to see this in person, I think you sped this up. And they're like, well, there was a glitch in the video. I said, the glitch is his twitch. I mean, this guy can go. He's different, folks. Be happy about that. He's not the second coming of anybody. He is the coming of Abdul Carter. And speaking of coming of age, I also noticed, and you see guys in the offseason during OTAs around the building, right? And, they look positive. Everybody has a great outlook on things. And, the one guy I noticed, and then yesterday in practice, I'm like, I think we're going from raw to refined with Trey Hawkins III. I saw him in the around in the OTAs, and he just looks so confident and more sure of himself, right? But the way he's moving out on the field, he's always been a really good raw talent, and you just had to wonder if he could put it all together. And, he came from a school that played a particular system. He didn't tackle very well at the pro level for a while. And that was one of the things that they said he could do well. But I'm looking at him yesterday, especially in the red zone. He looked so confident and sure about what he was doing. And this is a kid that at 6'3", 200 pounds and fast, if he can give you any type of contribution, it just makes this defense. And when I say any type of contribution, I'm talking about something that you can rely on. If there's a package they put in, it's not, oh, we got to go with Trey Hawkins. It's, hey, Trey, get in there. This is the package we want.
If somebody gets nicked, there's a trust level like, all right.
Right.
There's not going to be this gigantic fall off.
Correct.
We can hold the fort here.
Yeah. And I mean, not even hold the fort. I think he can do a good job for them if things continue. Again, not here to make predictions. I'm just giving observations. And, I see a kid who is playing more confident and can contribute at a level probably, and we've seen what Cordell Flott has given them when they needed him out there. I think you could, you should aspire to have that same level of contribution in its own way from Trey Hawkins, because again, the way I see this defense really tinkering right now, they can have some really exciting packages. And it really comes down to the confidence that the coaches have in the personnel they put on the field. We can all dream it up and draw it up, and then you have unreliable players that are not smart enough to really give them different tasks, and your schemes and your packages don't work. But when you can interchange guys, like I said, I saw Thibodeau as a true defensive end with Burns standing up, and then Carter standing up on the inside. It's been fun watching what they do subtly, because you have guys that can do different things. And then when you see Kayvon Thibodeau with his hand in the dirt, it looks like he's a defensive end. He's playing defensive end. He's no longer an edge. He's no longer a linebacker. He's a defensive end. So just all the different things that this level of talent enables Shane Boyne to accomplish. And then even on the other side of the football, Tyrone Tracy looks good. The often forgotten name in this offense is, and I don't know why, but Motor Singletary is still a good player. He's a productive runner, right? And then you got Turbo there too, but we're Tracy. But if you put Motor Singletary in there, he moves the chains, right? He's just not as flashy, and he doesn't do things. Not that Tracy's that flashy, but he looks different in space than Singletary. But he's going to be a reliable player as well.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate us, review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Drop your questions in the review section. Make sure you follow us on the Believe YouTube channel. If you have thoughts or questions, leave those in the comments. And make sure you get that Believe in Giants mug on the Believe shot. It will be linked on the description, so you can check it out and see where you need to go to get that Believe in Giants mug with Carl and myself. Carl, listen, we're doing this podcast 3 practices in.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's fans that have their opinion. So what we're doing right now is we're not analyzing, we're not projecting. We are just giving you what we have taken away from 3 practices with no pads on.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a conversation today right before the players went out for practice. And I had a little conversation with Jalin Hyatt.
Mm-hmm.
And, Jalin Hyatt is a very friendly kid. He's personable. I know you like him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of his. And I don't know if any of this means anything as far as how it's going to translate on the field of play in the regular season. But he seems more confident.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's from bulking up a little bit, adding a little more strength. He's getting a little bit older, right? So you're year 3 and you're starting to mature physically on that level. But in the past, when I've talked to him, he had a shyness about him. Like we had a cool conversation. We were talking about the Guardian cap that he was wearing. Because I was asking him, because my son is starting his tackle and it's mandatory that they wear the Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, it adds a little weight. He goes, it is a little awkward, like trying to run your routes, but he goes, it is really good protection. And I'm going to wear it here during camp. But we were just chatting, and I'm like, man, I wonder if this is going to, I wonder if the maturing Jalin Hyatt turns into the maturing player that we both think he could be.
So there are a few things that probably contribute to that. Those few things are Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. I think having quarterbacks that you can communicate with, that are not trying to figure it out along with you, that have seen it, that understand. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he was one of the guys that went west to work out with them. But you constantly see his relationship with Jameis Winston. You'll see how he communicates with Russell Wilson. They talk ball, right? They talk long ball, right? They talk how a guy like him can be a big contributor to the offense. You're not handicapped by, okay, well, we can only do certain things with Daniel, or we only have so much time to operate within this offense, so I got to get the ball out quick to just try to get, in manageable down and distance. Now, it's still, all of this still comes down to the offensive line, but you have a quarterback who understands it. And you heard Darius Slayton talk about the processes, how Russell Wilson processes pre-snap and post-snap, right? And knowing what the rotations are. Having a guy like that talk football with Jalin Hyatt, that's a big confidence booster because he knows that you know what you're talking about and you're going to help him be available on certain plays. And so that is good. Obviously Wan'Dale Robinson is a seasoned pro now, so he's moving about the way you'd expect him to. But it's exciting, and then again, folks saw a highlight and it didn't give them much confidence in JMS, John Michael Smith. And it's like, oh, he just got twisted up and tossed out the club by Abdul Carter. It happened. But I think it's one of these things where we're just going to have to, if he's out there, it's not because Joe Shane said he's my second round pick and you need to get him out there. He's out there because they think they can get, the best out of him. And so we're going to see. Let's just, it is preseason. So let's see what it looks like. And just FYI, folks, the play that he got tossed out the club on by Abdul Carter, if y'all go back and look at it, he did a lot of things. Carter did. He spun him, and then he came out of his spin with a counter and just shoved him out the way. So that's a lot for anybody dealing with his speed. So, how about this? My dad used to say when he used to get, we used to play basketball and do other things. And if he gets the upper hand, he says, "Oh, it's not your fault, son. It's my fault. It's my fault. I beat you on that one." So that wasn't on John Michael Smith. That was on Carter. You can blame Carter for what he saw. But hey, listen, this is the time for optimism. This is an opportunity for folks to really, take a sober assessment. And I think if you have been there at a practice, after 3 days, you're probably talking about this team a little differently than you have the past 3 years. Because you just see, I would suspect you see a different level of talent. I don't know if there's even any more optimism because every team is undefeated and every fan base only wants the best this time of year. But there are some realities that when you come in and you look and you say, oh, this looks the same, or this doesn't look much better. And, there are people that are big on stats and there are people that say they're just in shorts. Well, for an offense that's not very good, I don't think, or that wasn't very good, I don't think keeping stats is a bad thing in training camp because it kind of foreshadows, right? And it gives you a baseline. So when you look at the 5 plays, I think I saw 2 interceptions today, 1 the other day with Jackson Dart. And you look at the type of plays, and then you say, okay, well, he threw an interception on this particular play and he didn't read the safety well. Okay, now it's the same play and he did a better job. So you can start to chart progress. So I don't mind them, folks keeping stats of this team because you just want to see the progress, where they are. Are they truly a better offensive team from when you saw them in August to when you're at the end of September? Are you trending in the right direction? So yeah, I'd say keep it up, folks, because this is not a veteran offense. They're just figuring it all out. They got a new quarterback, and we want to see, some consistency. So I'm okay with the stat keeping when it comes to this Giant offense anyway.
Yeah, I mean, though, you always got to be careful with that because you don't know unless you're in those meetings leading into the practice, what the objectives are. Like they may tell the quarterback, hey, we want to force the deep ball. We just want to take the shots, even if it's high risk. Maybe they're doing it for the defense. Let's see how these guys are tracking these things. I don't care if you put it in harm's way. So the one of the things that I see, and again, we're giving our observations. You take for it whatever it's worth. But you've tuned into this podcast because Carl's a 2-time Super Bowl champion and has been around this for a long time and actually knows what he's watching and actually practices what he preaches because he did it for the Giants for so long. It's definitely a more talented roster. You just watching it, they're better. They have more speed. Last year they had too many guys in the secondary. They had some young players.
Yeah.
Drew Phillips, Tyler Nubin, love Jason Pinnock and what he was. But they had a lot of just guys. They brought Adoree back. There's like real competition here.
Sure.
And there's some really good, like they've upgraded this talent level quite a bit across the board. I don't know if it's going to mean more wins or not. But I know
we don't. But we know they're a better team. They're a better team, and they'll play better. And when you talk about the defensive backfield, they've got good coaching too. They've got a different dynamic in the defense, a different voice in the defensive backfield. And that I love Jerome Henderson to death, and I don't know the mechanics around why he was gone, but they moved on and they've got good coaching. But it was last year, it was Drew Phillips every other play, right? Now, not that Drew Phillips is just a guy, but it's a lot of other guys out there, running around and making plays and getting their hands on footballs. It was just like Phillips was all over the place, and it was just like you said, a bunch of other guys out there cheering him on. Well, now you've got a lot of other guys, and then guys that needed to improve. Deonte Banks has come with a new outlook on his career and his position.
He made a couple nice plays today, Banks.
Yeah, I have this theory, and I'm not conspiratorial at all, but I think last year, so let me make this analogy. So there's a guy, if you have guys that, let's just say Jumbo Elliott and Lawrence Taylor, right? Going against Lawrence Taylor every week, you either, you're going to lose more than you win, but it makes you better for the Charles Haley's of the world.
Sure.
Right? And that is what happened with Jumbo Elliott, right? Everything that he, struggled with Lawrence, he was just so much better. It happened with me. Right, and with Bavaro, right? Going against each other only made me better against the other guys I played against, right?
Sometimes the games were easier than your own practice.
Right. So, and this is the football conspiratorial mindset. As I looked at the battles last year in camp, with Malik Nabers and Deonte Banks. Malik was handing it to him a lot, right? They battled, but it didn't get Banks better, which it should have, right? And I'm like, well, did he have a mindset that he just couldn't compete anymore at this level, right? Because of, what was going on in practice. And Malik Nabers, again, it was a battle, but Malik was giving it to him. But then I'm like, well, this is only going to make him better. And then we start to see, him against McGurlin. We saw him in the Cleveland game and they mocked him. We saw him in the Dallas game. And then it became a deal where his effort fell off. Now, that might be a whole nother part of his play. But I was like, did he get beat down so much in practice that mentally he didn't use that to be better? It almost just made him step down a notch. That's not the case this season. And I'm totally could be totally off my rocker. And if it happened, he would never tell you or me. But I looked at it and I'm like, why isn't he better from going against Malik Nabers every single day, especially in camp? If you go back and look at those camp films and those battles in the red zone they had, and he got beat a few times, and I'm like, this is gonna make him better against the rest of the division. It didn't.
Hey, listen, sometimes players, you know this very well, Carl, with former teammates. Some guys mature at a different rate, and maybe he did some soul searching in the off season and looked at stuff and started to take things a little bit more serious. Maybe from him, I don't know what the answer is, but he certainly seems a lot more competitive.
Well, because he had a body of work that he could reference the latter part of his rookie year, right? And then last year. So if he had to go home and reflect, he can build on the latter part of his rookie year and wash last year away. It's not like, I don't know if it was a matter of maturity, but if you, as any good football player would do, go back and do some honest self-evaluation, I'm sure he looked at it and was like, what the hell was I doing here? And again, Bob, they have
with
a
different new DC.
Correct.
It was a new DC, second-year player.
And who knows how they communicated, right? We don't know what that football language was like either. If your DC comes in and he may have preconceived notions, he may handle you a different way, right? And so they were learning each other. And then you have, Jerome Henderson, but he's gone. And when I tell you the dynamic in that defensive backfield right now, they've got two coaches back there. They're different. They're vocal. They are all about the fundamentals. And you got one guy who's a screamer and the other guy's a teacher. They both are good teachers, but they are literally, if a guy gets something wrong, the other coach is right there telling him what he did and showing him. And that's, I think, has been a big difference in what I've seen with Banks and what I've seen with Trey Hawkins. But Banks has had real world experience. He's had the bullets flying, right? Mm-hmm. So, but his confidence, again, this game is, folks, about confidence. If you've got talent and you can't play with the confidence, and it's easier said than done because a lot of guys look the part until the bullets start to fly, or they look the part against mediocre players, but then when it's time to step up, they're not there. That's a confidence thing. And I think Deonte Banks looks the part and he's confident about that. And I think that's been a difference in whatever the coaching approach is. And again, like I said, this is off-season early. I chalk a lot of what's going on, what happened last year with Shane Bourne, and I'm very critical and justifiably so, but, now he's got to know his players. Let's see now if they've settled into understanding each other in their football language.
All right, so I'm looking at the grid that Christine sent us a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So Sunday, according to the grid, Sunday the 27th is morning practice shells. Okay. And then the 28th and 29th in the morning are full pads.
Got it. Okay.
So unless something's changed, I think that's what it is. So, and those are open to the public, those practices. So people got to, just in wrapping up here, Carl, I'm really excited Monday to see in full pads the one-on-ones, because I got a lot of questions. Like every fan watching, we all have a lot of questions about the offensive line, the configuration, and all that other stuff. And I'm just curious to see, against this depth that the Giants now have on their defensive front, with the guys that they drafted, the guys that they signed, and the guys that are coming back. I am fired up I'll be glued to that part of the field when the D-line, O-linemen go one-on-one.
Well, see, that is the part where when people say, well, they're in shorts and the advantage goes to the defense, one-on-ones, if you've got a superior player, he's going to make the other guy look bad. But that's why they have game plans with offensive linemen to help the guy out. But you do want to see how they hold up against guys. But listen, some guys are just going to get blown by and they're going to look great in a game because you got your offensive coaches that'll say, okay, we know how to scheme this guy. We know how to help this guy, right? But you do want to see some level of competitiveness. You want to see how a guy moves his feet, moves his hands. And, if he's got his hands full against Brian Burns, that's okay. That's just only going to make him better for the other guys, right? If JMS is battling and he's got his hands full against Dexter Lawrence, then it might make him better for Carter when he plays the Eagles, right? But you do want to see balance. You want to see how they move, if they're being overpowered, where their weakest at. So, yes, those one-on-ones would be great. I'm looking for the guys on the outside, the one-on-ones. I want to see, because it's a passing league, I want to see how these defensive backs are doing, how the linebackers versus tight ends are doing, because that, when you couple it with a very lethal pass rush, can mean a lot of good things for the defense.
And Lord knows the last couple of years, opposing tight ends have owned the Giants. Just like you and I will marvel at, like, how does every 3rd and 11, how does the tight end get that open?
Yeah.
We sometimes say before the play, you got to watch the tight end here. And boom, the opposing
like clockwork. Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So we'll do another one next week once we see some pads. But anything else?
No, I'm excited to watch the talent of this team. I think there'll be a better football team. I don't know what that means on the win-loss record. We're going to all find out together. But I'm optimistic about what I've seen so far.
All right. So remember, leave the comments, subscribe, like, questions. You know the whole drill. Give us a good rating on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Obviously, if you're watching, you're going to go to the Believe YouTube channel and check us out and subscribe. So, as we always do, how do we like to end it?
Tell a friend to tell a friend. Believe in Giants.